Let's talk about Auckland Transport now with John Key, who's in our Auckland studio. Good morning to you, Prime Minister.
Morning, Gone.
What do you make of Labor's proposal?
Bit panicky, isn't it, really? I mean, they're obviously announcing around the by-election because they want people to hear the sort of the ticker tape and not sort of, or read the ticker tape and not sort of push it any further. I mean, the reality is that Auckland Council, Auckland Transport and New Zealand Transport Agency have been working together on the 20-year plan. They have light rail theoretically in a 2028 proposals around that sort of time. But one of the things that's very yet to be determined, as I understand it, is whether rapid bus would be much better. The second thing with light rail is that it's notorious for blowing out in costs. So in Australia at the moment, they've just going through a program rollout there. I think it's billions over budget, so it's very, very expensive. And then the third thing is the very point you started with, which is about a week or so ago, Phil Goff was telling us no money in the coffers, government, step up and give us more money. Now, mysteriously, they'd have 700 million. So if they really did have 700 million, then they'd have it for things that are probably theoretically, the higher priority.
So for you and your government, does this stay on the 2028, which is a long time away?
Well, I think you've got to go through, firstly, there's a really good process that's established between these three bodies now. Secondly, I think you've got to do that proper work on whether rapid bus might be better than light rail. I can't give you that answer because they haven't done that work. But you wouldn't want to race out there with what is a $1.4 billion promise, but in reality will be more than that. Remembering, by the way, that that's quite an expensive promise to win a by-election for a seat they've held for a very long period of time, when other people are going to have to pay for that. I mean, other New Zealanders and other Aucklanders are going to have to pay for that.
Well, let's look at traffic in Auckland, though. I mean, it's a bit of a nightmare, isn't it? It's your city, you live here?
Yeah, I do live here. Look, what is absolutely true is that I think it's got a bit slower in recent times, and the reason for that is that there's been so much work being undertaken, and we've been investing literally billions of dollars. So, I mean, electrification of rail and all the things we've been doing in rail in Auckland has been $1.7 billion. We've now got the CRL on the books. Again, that's a $3.3 billion project. But a lot of what's slowing things down is, if you look at the roadworks going out to the airport, they'll eventually be fixed, obviously, but that's all about widening, the motorway out there. You've got Waterview that comes on early next year. You've got, we did the sod turning for the East-West link. The Western Ring Route's nearly finished. But so you've had a lot of work that's been fundamentally slowing the traffic flow down.
Because there's a lot of frustration. If I go to the AA, they did a survey of 1,300 people this year. 2/3 of those said the congestion has significantly worsened over the last 5 years, and the morning peak has become heavier and lasting longer. Many of those people said that they were looking to change jobs, move out of the city because their quality of life is being eroded. Do you accept that under your Prime Ministership and under this government, there has been no improvement at all in Auckland Transport, and in fact it's probably got worse?
No, I don't accept that at all. We've made enormous investments, and we're continuing to make those investments.
But where are the results, though?
Well, the results are a motorway network that's nearly completed, and when you ultimately get that completion, when Waterview's opened, I know from being part of my electorate, there's going to give you a completely different route to the airport.
Do roads solve the problem? We're adding 43,000 cars on the road in Auckland over the last year. 43,000.
Roads are part of the solution. There's no question that public transport is, but also, by the way, let's just remember buses go on roads as well, and they're part of the public transport solution. But what you're seeing is, and you're going to see, you're right, you're seeing more cars on the road, you're seeing a bigger Auckland population-wise, and so you have to see public policy that reflects that. Part of that is the Auckland Unitary Plan to allow more apartments and things to be built where people actually are working. You are seeing people fundamentally trying to live a little closer to where they work if they can, but in Auckland that can be very very challenging. Often, one partner will be working in South Auckland, the other one will be in West Auckland, the kids might be going to university in town. But what I'd say is, look, we are investing enormously in public transport. I mean, the CRL is $3.3 billion, of which we're on the hook for half of it, and electrification, double tracking the Western Line, all those things was $1.7 billion.
And light rail, not a priority for you, obviously, because 2028, you're well gone by then.
It's not a matter. It's a little unfair to say not a priority just for us, because
if it was a priority, it wouldn't be 12 years away.
No, but the very best people, the people who are best equipped to judge this, Auckland Transport, the Auckland Council, and the New Zealand Transport Agency, it's their set of criteria that say this is the pecking order of what's most important in Auckland.
Roskill, you're saying that this is simply pork barrel politics, are you, to try to win the Mount Roskill by-election?
Well, it's an interesting timing of the announcement if it's not. Secondly,
I mean, you weren't above trying to build 10 bridges in Northland.
Correct, and
That didn't help you, did it?
Not terribly, no. But that was 60 million versus 1.4 billion, so there is a
yours
slightly
was a
scale,
smaller pork barrel, if you like.
Slightly different scale. Look. Like all of these things, will they happen over time? I don't know with light rail. I mean, I think it will depend enormously on what happens over the next decade or so. When we look at things like, for instance, as say, rapid bus is one issue. I think there's obviously work going on around road pricing and the rights.
On Roskill, we just don't 30 seconds to the sting in the news, but are you going to win?
It's very challenging. I mean, no incumbent government's won a seat they don't hold, but we've got a very good candidate.
And have you got some pork barrel?
No, not really. I don't think
Justice?
that
Crime?
Well,
maybe?
all of those things are part of our overall policies, but and things that we'll want to take into the election. Look, for us to win Roskill, I think it's got to be on the back of a government that's performing and a candidate, Parmjit Palmer, who's very solid.